Welcome to Bridge the Atlantic, where we get to know the people behind the creative industries. We're your hosts, music web designer Ross Barber-Smith, owner of Electric Kiwi, where we create awesome custom websites for bands, artists, and musicians.
And I'm singer-songwriter and multi-instrumentalist Marcin Novelli. If you'd like to be a part of my brand new solo album, please visit marcinnovelli.com/pledge.
This week we're joined by Alabama-based singer-songwriter Jessica Meuse. In 2013 and 14, Jessica competed on American Idol, finishing in 4th place, and was the first person in the history of the show to perform an original song, Blue-Eyed Lie, during the finals. She went on to tour with the Idol's live tour in summer 2014, visiting 40 different cities in the United States and Canada.
Post-Idol, Jessica released her first independent single, Done, and in January 2016 she released her second independent single, Rio Grande, with plans to release an EP soon. We're looking forward to hearing about Jessica's experiences of the music industry and the advice she'd offer to her fellow musicians. So, hi Jessica.
Hey, how are y'all?
We are doing well.
Not too bad.
How are you?
We're excited to chat with you today. Tell us 3 things about yourself that everyone should know, Jess.
Well, I'm a very spiritual person. That's probably the first and foremost thing. I also am very grounded in where I grew up in my hometown, where I'm from. And I love music, if that isn't obvious. Like, it's my life. I live it. I breathe it every day.
We've been speaking on Twitter and Facebook quite a bit, I guess, over the last couple of years, kind of on and off. And most recently, we spoke a little bit on Facebook about people who doubt those who want to pursue music as a career, whether that's like a teacher at school or whether that's just someone in your life, thinking that it's just a dream or, it's something you're never going to achieve. And I know we've had similar kind of experiences. I'd really like to hear about your experience of that and what you would say to aspiring musicians who are in a similar position.
Well, I always tell people, remember why you do it in the first place, because that's why you're doing it. It's not about being famous and having a bunch of money, because if you're in it for the money, you're probably going to lose it all anyway, because it's a huge investment in yourself. So you can't care what other people think. You have to remember why you're doing it. And if you love it that much, you're going to want to do it regardless of what other people say. Because there's going to be people, I've had so many people tell me, you're not going to do this, or they made fun of me because I was trying to do what is kind of impossible. And now I'm just like, really? Look what I did all by myself. So you can't tell me what's possible or impossible. So my biggest piece of advice to somebody is just remember why you do it in the first place.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Speaking of which, you've built up a very loyal fan base, which refer to themselves as your Meuse Mafia. I like that. How important are these relationships, and how do you maintain those both online and offline?
Well, first of all, the Meuse Mafia kind of named themselves the Meuse Mafia because I just called them Muses, and then collectively they just started calling themselves the Meuse Mafia, which has been proven they're just like the Meuse Mafia. Like, they're kind of crazy in a good way. Like, they don't actually like kill people, but they're insane. And those relationships they're so vital to an artist, because in a place and a time where major labels are nearly impossible to get signed with because they don't really care about developing an artist that isn't already there, and it costs so much, and they're doing 360 deals where the artist doesn't really make much. Those relationships with your fans, not only does it help with your inspiration and having a support system, but it helps with you making a living doing what you like. Like, if your fans think you're a douchebag, they're not going to support you, So I think that's really important. And then obviously relationships that aren't with your fans, you got to maintain those as well, like your family, and you have to stay grounded. It keeps you rooted in who you are. Yeah,
definitely. And I notice a lot of time on Facebook, like, you post a lot of pictures of you with your fans, like whether it's at shows or, other kind of events that you've met them at. How do you how do you approach kind of speaking with your fans and kind of building a relationship in person as well as online with them?
I think it's the coolest thing ever. When I know who they are, I know their little screen names and stuff, and then I actually see them in person, or they'll tell me, like, there's a couple who have become really, really good friends of mine. And there's younger girls who they look up to me a lot, but I kind of I don't want to say mentor because I'm not 100% available all the time, but I try to give them advice and I try to help them. And, I just want to be a good example of a human being. That's really all I want to do. And that's what I try to do. Music is a catalyst. It's a tool for me that I also love to do, but it helps me to do something bigger than that. But it's the coolest thing ever to meet your fans and know who they are as a human being. That's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, because I remember when we became friends on Facebook, you recognized me from Twitter, and you're like, oh, I didn't know what your name was, because at that point I had Ross Electric Kiwi, but now I've changed it to my name. But yeah, I thought that was cool that you recognized who I was just by our little Facebook picture. And I know we've not met in person, but I do get that vibe that you feel quite close with your fans, and I think that is definitely one of the reasons they're so loyal to you, because I think you appreciate them as much as they appreciate you.
I do think that's why they're always there. It's because it's more than just, hey, you're my fan, you buy my stuff. Like, it's not like that, really. I treat them the way that I want to be treated, and we actually have friendships, and it's a huge, diverse range, all different kinds of people, all different ages from all over the world. And that's one of the big reasons I do music. Like, I enjoy it. Yes, I love to do what I do, but I also love the people and the places that I get to meet and go to through it.
I can absolutely relate to that, and that's amazing. I love that. The idea of actually taking just a small amount of time to respond to someone or recognize them, by name, just shows, it validates the person. It makes them feel. It's not like you're going out of their way to make them feel special. You're just making them feel important, because they are important, because without them you are just making music for yourself.
Yeah. And you never know what it means to somebody just to answer them and say hi back. You never know. That person could be having the worst day ever. It's like smiling at somebody. Just smile. You never know what it means to somebody.
Definitely.
I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to talk a little bit about American Idol. I mean, I don't want it to be the focus of our conversation, but obviously it's been quite a big part of your journey so far. So I'd like to find out maybe a little bit about how American Idol's changed your career, and what you maybe found the pros or cons to going on the show have been.
Okay. It definitely gave me a head start. That's the biggest thing, probably with my platform, with my fan base. And it gave me that exposure, because it is so hard, like I said earlier, to jump into a label and to get a good deal and to have them invest in you and really develop you so that millions of people are going to see you. So that's almost, I'm not going to say impossible, because nothing's really impossible, but it's very hard and it takes a very long time. And I feel like American Idol it gave me a ton of experience. Like, I have a lot more confidence now, not only in myself, but as a musician. I just do what makes me happy, what makes my fans happy at this point. And, before I was playing in bars, I really didn't know how good or how bad I was. I just had people like, hey, you're really good. And I'm like, okay, I guess so. Cool. And then I went on this show, and now I'm like, you know what? I should empower myself. I should take this and really run with it and do everything that I can, because this is what I want to do. And I built myself up through it, and I learned how to deal with criticism, which I'm just saying, they can't teach you that in school, because people get mean, especially with a digital age and with all this political correctness and everything. Like, everybody's going to disagree no matter what you say. So I learned how to deal with that. What was the second part of that question? Because I get really, really into it.
What would you say the pros and cons to going on a show like Idol would be, in your experience?
Okay. Well, the pros are definitely just, you can't pay for that kind of education. I learned so much about the industry, about writing, about myself. You make those relationships, those connections. Like, I've been going back and forth to LA, coming home, and it's because I know people now. So I really worked on those relationships while I was out there, because that's going to last longer than the show. And it taught me how to appreciate also the help that I had in that team environment that I had. Like, I had a guitar tech I've never had a guitar tech before. I've had to do everything myself. Somebody else set up my sound system. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so great. And I know it's temporary, so I'm going to just savor this. So it taught me how to really, really appreciate having something when you know it's going to go away, or when you know what it's like to have to do it all by yourself. And that was really amazing. But one of the cons, I would say, is that people who aren't in the music industry are so judgmental, and to be in the limelight like that on a show that it's a popularity show. It's, you vote for your favorite person, and people get mean. And that was probably the hardest part for me, because I was already stressed out, because people only believe what they see, but they don't really take into account that there's a lot of editing going on. They've compressed, especially during Hollywood Week, this thing that took an entire week, they put it into 2 like 1 to 2 hour shows. Like, it was so much harder than that. And honestly, I wouldn't have gone back if I had gotten voted off then. I'd be like, screw this. This is ridiculous. But a lot of people jump the gun and they just judge based on what they see when they don't really know what's going on. They just, I don't know. But that was probably the hardest part of the whole thing.
Well, it's funny you said that, because I was going to ask you if you think there are misconceptions about artists who go on shows like American Idol. I think you've just answered that there are major misconceptions. I guess what I'll ask you then, did you feel like you had any misconceptions before you went on the show that are now busted or now confirmed?
Well, there were a lot of times on the show where they just made me look like a bitch. And I'm not. I'm a really nice, happy person. But like I said, they're sitting there condensing it into like a 1.5 to 2 hour show for the beginning specials of Hollywood Week. And I'm like, I didn't tell him to quit. I didn't tell him to get off of American Idol. And they edited it and made it look like I told this kid to quit. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't do that. I didn't say it like that. I didn't. And they put this whole context around you. You're running on 2 minutes of sleep the night before. Everybody's crying. Like, it's so miserable. But they made me look really mean. And I was like, I'm really not mean unless you give me a reason to be mean. But, I mean, that people, I think, kind of get now that I'm not this arrogant, full of myself person. I have never been that way. I, by any means, do not think I'm the best out there. I think I'm okay at what I do. I think I deserve what I get, and I think I deserve top 4 because I worked my ass off. But I think there have been a couple things that have been disproven since the ending of that show.
See, to me, that's just confidence. And I think that, thinking you're the best is one thing. There's cockiness, but then there's confidence, saying, no, you know what, you've worked really hard for something. You're good at it. And so many of us, I think, have a problem with accepting praise and accepting success. So many of us, myself included, so it's really refreshing to see that you've come to a place where you can be like, no, I own this. I deserve this, because more people need to be that way.
Yeah.
I would love talk a little bit more about the kind of connection you have with your audience. And maybe for artists who are struggling to build connections with their audience, kind of what advice would you give them? Maybe what would be the first sort of steps to building friendships or relationships with their audience? Okay.
It's a lot of work, but social media right now is the best tool to build those relationships, especially with your fans. It's very critical. Like I said, there's a lot of 360 deals where you're not going to be making anything from what you're actually doing. The only thing you're going to get is whatever your fans are giving you. And that's your support system, your fans, your friends, your family. So you got to be on the computer. You're going to have to be on your phone. But then there comes that conflict of you got to separate the me time versus all this time you're spending working, hustling, doing stuff online, which that was really hard for me. But now I have a time where I shut my phone off. I'm done. I'm done for the day. I'm done working. I'm going to go play. I'm going to go write a song. I'm going to be a lazy butt. The biggest thing is social media. It really is. Even freaking MySpace.
I love hearing you say that because I've struggled with the same thing. You feel like if you're not doing something, you're not working, you're doing yourself, you're not helping your career. But really, it's so important to relax as well and take those breaks. I feel like you'd be more productive when you are doing those sort of things by having that break, but it is true. You have to get online. You need to talk with people. You need to promote yourself online, because that's like you said, social media is such a huge part of everything today. But I think that the thing that a lot of us can forget, and it's important not to forget, is you still need to be out in the real world too. You still need to be doing the real world stuff. But what I do want to ask you though is, this is always an interesting question to ask. What is one thing that you know now that you wish that you knew when you first started your career?
Probably, I mean, it's really just the experience I got more than anything. If I had that much experience where I got out of my freaking comfort zone and just did it, if I had that before American Idol, I know I would have gotten farther. I would have done better. I wouldn't have been so scared. Like, you set your own limits on yourself. And if I had someone there to really just be like, do it, even though you feel weird about it, like, because you haven't done it before. It's not that you're uncomfortable. It's really just that it's new. If I had that push, that kick in the ass to really just push me forward and have that experience and get over my fear, then I wish I had that even before Idol.
Well, what would you say that you've now, besides Idol, what would you say that you've pushed yourself beyond your fear? Can you give us some examples of that?
Well, like, I used to do a lot of bar shows, little regional shows, not really huge festivals or anything like that. But it comes back to that whole confidence that I was talking about earlier. And I needed to give myself credit for working as hard as I did, as hard as I do. And back then, I never felt like I was doing enough. And I really just worked myself to death. And I was setting up my own sound systems. I was doing everything on my own. And it was exhausting. And because I exhausted myself constantly, it kind of made it not as fun for me. And that's where that I wish I had known to take time for myself as well. Because also, when you work all the time, you don't have time to be creative anymore. And that's the reason you're doing it, is so you can be creative and let that part of you out. So I wish I had that knowledge of the experience, the confidence, and that balance that I needed.
I'm really glad to hear you say this. And Ross, you'll know what I'm talking about. I've been struggling with this myself, overworking, doing everything myself, and it burns you out to the point where you actually stop making music. And you're not feeling creative. You're in that left side of your brain. I think it's left side where it's more technical and more analytical. You know what I mean? And that right side of your brain, that's the creativity, kind of turns off. So I'm glad to hear you say that. It's just kind of a reminder to get back to that. And to kind of set things in place. One, take time for yourself, but also set things in place where maybe you can get some help, or just focus on being the artist. But it's so hard to do that independently. But we have to remember to be the artists, or else you're just a business person. You're not creating anymore, which is why we're all doing this, right? Now, Jess, I want to know if you are ready for 20 questions.
Bring it.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Meat or veggies?
Vegetables.
TV or Netflix?
Netflix.
Twitter or Facebook?
Twitter.
Yoga or yogurt?
Yoga.
Canada or Scotland?
Canada, because I have friends there. I don't know anyone in Scotland yet.
Well, other than Ross. Vampires or zombies?
Zombies.
Indie or major?
Indie.
Talent or attitude?
Attitude.
American Horror Story or The Walking Dead?
American Horror Story.
Hockey or football?
Hockey. I love hockey.
I know. I've seen your posts. Lots of hockey pictures
all the time, like every game.
The Voice or American Idol?
American Idol, because I was on it.
Education or experience?
Experience.
Batman or Superman?
Batman.
This is a special question. Michael Jackson or Michael Bolton?
Michael Jackson.
Good answer.
Jessica Jones or Daredevil?
What kind of question? Jessica Jones.
Ricky Gervais or Ricky Martin?
Ricky Martin. I don't know who the other guy is.
You don't know Ricky Gervais? We're going to talk.
Okay,
Whale
you just tweet
or
me.
kale? I will.
Whale or kale, really?
Mm-hmm.
Probably a whale. You only said that because it rhymed, I can tell.
That's the only reason why we have it on there.
Yeah.
See? Bette Midler or the Riddler. Another rhyming one. See, we are so clever here. And the final question is, to tear everyone apart,
Ross or Marcio?
What was the question? What?
Ross or Marcio?
Oh, gosh. Both.
Okay, I'll take that. I never win this. Everyone always picks Ross, so I'm going to take both. I never win. So I'm going to just take, I'm pretty sure, to our listeners right now, I want our listeners to, if there's anyone that has the time to sit back and tally our 80 plus interviews and see how many yeses I've gotten and how many like Ross has gotten, particularly in the last 50. In the beginning, I got a few, but in the last 50 or so, it's been like, oh, Ross. So I will take the both. That's what I'm going to get right now. I'm happy with it. So everyone can check you out at jessicameuse.com. That's JESSICAMEUSE.com. You're Jess Meuse on Twitter, and Idol Jessica Meuse on Facebook. And your Instagram is Jess Meuse as well. That's the same as your Twitter. I think everyone needs to go follow you. And I love what you're doing. I love the attitude you have and the confidence. And as for me, I'm working on my second solo album, and you can be a part of that at marcionovelli.com/pledge. I also recently released my award-winning documentary, Walking Proof, which chronicles the making of my debut solo album, and you can watch that for free at marcionovelli.com/walkingproof. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Spotify, which are all Marcio Novelli.
And I'm working on websites for various artists at the moment. You can check out my work and my blog at electrickiwi.co.uk. You'll find me on Twitter and Instagram as Electric Kiwi, and on Facebook, Electric Kiwi Design.
This episode was brought to you by Chris Keaton, the Rockstar Advocate, Buck Naked Soap Company, and Social Surge. They are all awesome and keep the show alive, and their links are in the show notes, so please do check them out.
And if you'd like to sponsor the show, visit patreon.com/bridgetheatlantic.
And finally, make sure you follow the show on Twitter and Instagram. On Twitter, it is bridge_Atlantic. On Instagram, it is Bridge the Atlantic. And our website is annoyingly bridge-the-atlantic.com. Thank you so much for coming on, Jess. This has been a real pleasure to chat with you.
Yeah, thank you. It's awesome to finally get to talk to y'all and to finally see Ross's little face.
Yay! I know, I'm sure we'll... I'm still... we still have to have our chocolate date where we just sit and talk on Skype and eat chocolate. So we're going to make that happen at some point.
Thanks for watching Bridge the Atlantic. If you like what you saw, make sure to like, favorite, and most importantly, subscribe so that you don't miss each week's episode.
Please feel free to leave us a comment letting us know what you think of the show.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and subscribe to us on iTunes so that you can listen to us on the go. Thanks again for being awesome, and we'll see you on next week's episode.